Well, kia ora koutou, welcome along to today's council meeting, Wednesday the 19th of March 2025. The agenda's in front of us, and I'm going to begin with karakia, council affirmation, and today we've got a guest, MP Nicola Grigg, along with us to speak as well. So if I can ask you to stand for the karakia. Whakatake hou ki te uru, whakatake hou ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tara ki tai, ehi aki ana te atakura, he teo, he huka, he hohu, tihei mauri ora. In the affirmation, let us affirm today that we as councillors will work together to serve the citizens of Selwyn District, to always use our gifts of understanding, courage, common sense, wisdom and integrity in all our discussions, dealings and decisions so that we may solve problems effectively. May we always recognise each other's values and opinions, be fair-minded and ready to listen to each other's point of view. In our dealings with each other, let us always be open to the truth of others and ready to seek agreement, slow to take offence and always prepared to forgive. May we always work to enhance the well-being of the Selwyn District and its communities. We will. Thank you. I have an apology from Deputy Mayor Malcolm Lyle. Move that be accepted. Seconded. Shane, thank you. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. There's been no further items to add to today's agenda. Are there any conflicts that people would like to raise or any interest they have in the matters that are before us today that aren't recorded elsewhere? Nope. And Nicola, thank you very much for joining us today. It's great to have you here and have lunch, but also a chance to just discuss some things as a council, and thank you for your leadership in our community, for the work that you do to advocate for Selwyn, and I guess the affirmation that we said earlier, there's lots of things in there that we see in your work for us and our community. So thank you for the partnership that we have between your office and Selwyn District Council, and in the end, we have different jobs and we work in different spaces, but it's all for the benefit of New Zealand and Selwyn communities. So I'll hand the floor to you, and if you'd like to just talk us through some of the things that are top of mind, and then I think we've got a chance for some Q&A.
Oh, thank you very much, Mayor Broughton. Kia ora koutou, good afternoon everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and see you all today. I just wanted to really briefly trot through the government's work agenda. I want to keep my comments brief because I'd much rather an interactive Q&A session. I think that's probably more beneficial to everyone involved. As you'll know, Parliament's been back since January. I've been working really closely with my cabinet colleagues for the better part of late last year and into this year, given that we've got a budget approaching very, very soon, and being acutely aware of the rapid growth in this district and the need for that infrastructure investment that is right in our face right now. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to bring down a number of senior cabinet colleagues into the district, including Transport Minister, Health Minister, Education Minister, excuse me, Building and Construction Minister. So that's been a big part of my work program for this year indeed. We're very aware that as a central government, our focus must be on economic growth because, with economic growth comes, the ability to be able to fund the public services to the level that New Zealanders should rightly expect. We're very much trying to deal with the combating the rising cost of living. You'll have seen that there's been a really strong focus on reducing inflation, therefore reducing interest rates to mortgage holders around the country. We see a lot of that here in this district, as you'll be aware. We're largely made up of mortgagees and first home buyers and young families. So that's been great to have seen a shift in that, and there are significant numbers of people who are about to come off fixed term mortgages in the coming months to go onto those newer lower interest rates, which we're very pleased to see that shift happening. there's ongoing conversations around the country, around the delivery of infrastructure and how the Crown might best fund that. You'll have seen conversations recently around public-private partnerships in parts of the North Island, and indeed the Prime Minister's just recently hosted the Infrastructure Investor Summit up in Auckland prior to him getting on a plane and heading off to India. The reason we're really focused on attracting offshore investors is because, again, we are trying to deliver the services to the public that the public should and can expect. But of course, within the fiscal constraints that we find ourselves in, the economy is in recession. Within those constraints, we have to be creative in our thinking as to how we can deliver those going forward. So there's all sorts of conversations occurring up in Wellington about how to best provide those services. Within the Parliament, we've spent the last 18 months on a lot of legislative reform. Has included reforming, reviewing, rewriting a lot of legislations. Particularly, I suppose, what's in your wheelhouse that would concern you is around the Resource Management Act and indeed the Public Works Act, where there are significant reforms being made. Excuse me. The focus of that is primarily to wind back the overly onerous regulations and the regulatory hurdles and barriers, the red tape that you will have heard people complaining about, and indeed the need to enable and expedite the delivery of infrastructure and indeed housing is the primary focus. So that's where we're at. With the first draft of the new RMA bill is in front of the Parliament at the moment. We are hoping that it will be passed into law before the end of the year, as with the Public Works Act as well. So, and the other one that I suppose is really pertinent to this part of the world is the Fast Track Approvals Act. Of course, there's been a number of developments around this district that have sought and been granted fast track approvals. That's fantastic for our district in that it is going to enable the delivery of housing. Again, I do appreciate the pressure that puts on our local infrastructure and the pressure that it puts on you as a council and the need to provide and deliver that local infrastructure. The Mayor and I have previously had meetings with the then Minister for Local Government, and we did canvass a lot of those issues, and I understand that you've also spoken to the new Minister for Local Government. So Selwyn's very lucky that they're very well represented by a very, ambitious and energised mayor who I know spends a bit of time in Wellington speaking to the right people. So, we do appreciate that, Sam. So thank you. Because it also helps my case as well when it's not just one squeaky wheel in the air, it's two of us. So that's excellent. So look, I guess I can wind up my comments there because, as I say, I'd really like to be able to have more Q&A so I can hopefully answer more direct, specific questions. I would love to be able to stand up here and make several announcements that are coming, but I can't. I'm not going to get in front of those because they are related to this year's budget, but I'm really pleased that they are coming, and I think you will be too, and I think the Selwyn district will be pleased. So let's just wait and watch this space. And with that, I'll finish there and happy to take your questions.
Great. Thank you, Nicola. Councillors, if you'd like to ask anything, just put your microphone on. I guess I'll just start with the conversation for our district over many years now has been around growth and the changes that growth brings to a community and the balancing between what has traditionally been an agricultural, rural district and now moving to an urban one, but still holding both characters within it. And as we grow, and I've shared this data with you around police numbers, hospital and health numbers, education and public housing, and the idea that the government has around going for growth and growth paying for growth, we're seeing that we're putting in money into the roads and the water supplies and the things that I think our community expects rates to pay for, but police and health and education are things that I think people expect their taxes to pay for. Do you want to just talk a little bit about how you see the growth of Selwyn, being met by those government services?
Yeah, I can talk in really high level terms because, again, I don't want to get ahead of any announcements. You'll note, as because you were there, we had the Education Minister down here a couple of months ago, and we got all of the district principals into one room with the Minister and had a really frank, really, really useful discussion around the projections for this district and how they just defy all of the Ministry's traditional projections for growth. And, you know, I think the comment was made that the minute a growth plan gets printed, it's out of date before the ink's even dry. And so that was really useful for Minister Sanford to hear. The request from the room was for her to go away and put together a Selwyn specific plan. That has been done. I've seen it. It's excellent. And we'll have more to say on that in the coming months. On police, I have not had a conversation in recent times with the Minister for Police, though I know, the recruitment drive is on. The funding is being spread across the country according to need. I also appreciate from local police that crime rates are climbing relevant to the population, but the feedback I've had from senior leadership within the police is they are not by any means stretched or indeed feeling that they're not supported enough. I've certainly noticed as a local MP, I've had far less complaint in my office about crimes occurring within the district. I think where the pressure points are at is probably in road policing, according to the feedback I've been given. But that's not to say that, we don't need to fund for future growth. I entirely agree that we do need to. That will be up to Canterbury Policing to advocate and lobby for that. And then disperse it as they see fit. And what was the other one, Sam? Infrastructure? Housing, yes, housing. So, yeah, as I alluded to before, we've had these fast-track approvals, which are going to bring thousands of houses online, literally. And, there are various conversations around how to fund the corresponding infrastructure. And I don't want to speak out of turn here around conversations that we've had with previous ministers. There are different models for being able to fund that infrastructure that I guess can be canvassed in probably a more private setting.
Cool. Thank you very much. First up is Deborah.
Thank you. I'm hoping that you can answer two of my questions. I guess one is you talk about growth and we currently have development contributions. Other areas overseas actually take development contributions through levies. Are you looking at any modelling with regards to levies versus our current model of these development contributions and how they're taken for growth?
There we go. Everything's on the table at the moment, Deborah. I know that the new Minister for Local Government will be making announcements at the Local Government Conference. Beyond that, it's probably outside my remit to talk too much more about that in detail.
Okay, and I guess my next question is probably in the same ballpark. Rates capping proposal. Any announcements around rates capping proposal with regards to local government?
Just like my previous response, everything's on the table and the Minister is planning on making announcements around conference time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Shane.
Tēnā koe. E te rangatira, e te minita Nicola Grigg, nā mahara mai ki te kaunihera o Waikirikiri. E te rangatira o te motu, tēnā koe, te rangatira tanga, ngai te rui hiki hiki, ngai te uhiwi whānau, tēnā rā tātou katoa. E te rangatira tanga, ngā take wā ngai tahu, tēnā koe. Kia ora, Nicola. Thank you very much for your brief today, and thank you very much for coming along. I really appreciate the updates. You've mentioned the government's focused on economic development or strengthening and also fast track the changes to RMA and that type of thing. As you've seen today, welcoming you to the building here today with our partners and our friends, manaakitanga, having a kai and that sort of thing is what we're most proud, well, I'm most proud of at this particular council, we've always had a really good understanding and partnership with each other, and that respect. So I guess in advocating for that, my hope is that while continuing to strengthen the balance sheet for economic growth and to fast track to bring in more development, that we continue to focus, the government continues to also take into account the quality, and that includes partnering with mana whenua and strengthening of Te Tiriti o Waitangi in those conversations. Kia ora. Ngā mihi.
I don't know that that was entirely a question, but entirely agree with and endorse your comments as well.
Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah, kia ora Nicola, welcome. My question's kind of because one thing that you didn't mention in your preamble was around local water done well, which of course we're in the thick of right now. We have hearings tomorrow. And reading all the submissions, there is a lot of concern around the fact that people don't realise why we're having to go through with this. And I figured I just wanted to feed that back, that no matter how much we try to communicate that this is in law, so we have to, we are being asked why we're doing it anyway, because the law isn't yet finalised. So that was one part, just to feed it back to you. But one concern that has popped up a lot is around the risk of privatisation when I'm reading the submissions. And I'm just wondering if, as a representative of the horse's mouth, you can tell us your thoughts on privatisation. Thank you.
I think, yeah, well, good feedback that, it's often, when we're talking in our own echo chambers, we've all, I think, as elected representatives, got to be really, really mindful that we need to be communicating our message outwards to our ratepayers and taxpayers, and, and I need to be very cognizant of that as well. Look, we lobbied really, really hard in opposition prior to forming a government that water assets are owned by the ratepayers, and I would hesitate to say, but I'll say it anyway, it'll be a cold day in hell before we see anyone privatise the water assets in this district or indeed this country.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Hi, thank you. I just had a quick question. You talked about public-private partnerships. I wanted to ask what that looks like for Selwyn, and is there any risk of additional costs to the ratepayers going down that road in the long term? And how does it stack up being a benefit to us?
Again, way too preemptive for me to talk to that. We've just had the Infrastructure Investment Summit in Auckland, so we're still trying to court the money and the developers. All we're saying is that a PPP is a really viable option to be able to deliver infrastructure assets across this country. So nothing specific to Selwyn or indeed the South Island that I've seen, but that is a viable live option for the government to be able to deliver the roads, the bridges, whatever infrastructure we need going forward.
Thank you. Megan?
Tēnā koe. Sorry I didn't join you for lunch. I didn't know you were coming, but so I have a very specific role here, which is to advocate on behalf of mana whenua, to provide a mana whenua lens into decision making. And I echo a bit about what Sophie said about the community are feeling like they're losing their voice over local decisions. And we see that through the fast track legislation, the RMA, the water regulatory standards, and local water done well. And so there's this real feel of local voice being lost. And if locals feel that way, then mana whenua, who haven't had a voice for a long time into these decisions, are feeling like their voice is even more weakened through the removal of their voice in the RMA process. And so I just have a really specific question, which is, are you familiar with the aspirations and challenges facing the Indigenous population here in this district in your electorate? And if so, how do you advocate for that in central government?
Yeah, good question. I haven't met with the local runanga probably in the past year. I spent much of last year on maternity leave, though we do catch up from time to time at public events. We keep saying to each other, we must catch up. And so actually that's a really good note for me to take back, and we'll formalise something. So good reminder, thank you. Yes, I am very aware of it. I know, and I think across the country is partnership is really important, and this is why the government does not support the Treaty Principles Bill. We have no intention of supporting it any further than its current state. We said we'd support a select committee for the purposes of forming a coalition government. We don't believe that going down that avenue is going to do anything for enabling and enhancing the partnership between mana whenua and the Crown. We think there are better ways to do it by working in partnership, and that's the route that we intend to pursue.
Great, thank you. Nicola, really appreciate you coming and having this yarn to us today, and hopefully we can do this again in the future. Thank you again for your leadership of our district, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Sam, I just wanted to note that Dave Page unfortunately can't make the public forum today. He rang me and put an apology in. Has got a bereavement in his family. He hopes to come to another day.
And I think we've got him scheduled to come next time if that suits his diary. Thank you, Grant, for raising that. We have the confirmation of minutes from the 19th of February meeting. Do I have a mover and seconder for those minutes? Bob and Lydia. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favour that the true and accurate record say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. The next item is the Mayor's report. A number of things happened in through February that you can see there. I'll just highlight the opening of the reuse shop and the success that's been around diverting waste out of landfill. I think on the day we were talking, it was over 100 tonnes of waste had been diverted, and I've heard some really good feedback from the community on the things that they've been able to repurpose into their homes. And so you're well done to Sharon and the team you've got with Andrew looking after that. And I'll also mention, it's not in the report because it only happened today, I've been a part of the representation review appeal and hearing that was with the Local Government Commission. They heard us this morning, and we're expecting an answer from them around our own representation. I think it was the 10th of April is their final day for finalising not only our representation review but all of the appeals across the country. I'm happy to take any questions on my report if you have any. I'll move you. Oh, Shane,
I'm
yes?
happy to second it, Sam.
Are you happy to second it?
Yep. And I just wanted to say personally, thank you for attending Waitangi in my own capacity with my own whānau. We attend there every year, but it was nice to see you there, albeit local government. I was very proud to be part of the ceremony and your kōrero at the dawn service. So thank you from our people.
Oh, thank you, Shane.
Tēnā koe.
Elizabeth.
Am I not showing up on the screen?
no, it is.
I am? Oh, yeah. No, I just wondered if you could give a quick rundown of roughly how it went and what was said at the hearings this morning.
Yeah,
You
so
guys?
the hearings this morning, I presented with Phil as chair of the subcommittee, Sharon, Sarah from our engagement and comms team, and Stephen. And we had we tried to run them through as clearly as we could, the process from beginning to end, and talk about how the decisions were made right through the process and be clear about the final decision. So right from early community consultation to Council's final decision. They then heard from the chair of the Rolleston Residents Association, Mark Alexander, who was the appellant to our decision, and they also heard from John Very from the Melbourne Community Board, who shared their views on Council's decision making through that process. We then had a right of reply. They had asked us 11 or 13 questions that we responded as we could, and they thanked us for our time. And so we now wait for them to make their final decision.
Have they given a time frame on that?
Yep, 10th of April. Anything further? No. I'll move that you receive my report. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. We now have verbal updates from chairpersons of committees and subcommittees and from the Melbourne Community Board. And Bruce Russell, thank you for being here today to give an update on activities of the Melbourne Community Board. Bruce, this is a new thing for us to kind of formalise some of the engagement that we have, and often meetings and conversations and phone calls and different things that you have with staff and obviously with the elected members from Melbourne on a regular basis. But we wanted to ensure that some of that is captured so that the community can understand the good work of the Melbourne Community Board. And this is part of also hearing back from a number of other committee chairs that will happen following your presentation today. So appreciate you coming here. If travel is ever an issue, you're always welcome to Zoom in to these meetings as well. But I'll hand the floor to you and give us an update on the Melbourne Community Board. It'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sam, it is a privilege for us to be here, and it has taken quite some years, but at least we're here now. So I think that's a very valuable step, and we're very pleased about that. I would just make some comment, personal. Don't bother reading the Selwyn Times today, because there's an article in there which I sort of got roped into. I think when the reporter rang me, I said, "You're obviously short of news." But I must admit it was a privilege to be interviewed, and so it'll be interesting just to hear comments once you've read it. I'll only take the good comments. Firstly, I would like to thank the Mayor and the councillors for this opportunity to attend council meetings and provide an update on the work of the Melbourne Community Board. I would also want to express my appreciation to the CEO, Sharon, for the work that she did while she was there, and also to raise a very special thanks. Steve Gibbling has now taken over that chair, and I must admit I've been very impressed, along with the board, of his ability and his encouragement that we are getting. Along with that, I'd also like to thank the staff, the council staff. I know on many occasions, they are criticised, but I must admit, on the people that I've dealt with, I can only offer praise and thanks for the work that they're doing to keep the Melbourne Community Board in a stable and good position. Board members remain actively engaged with our communities, attending monthly meetings of residents and community associations, as well as various events. We are also working with several associations outside Melbourne, namely Prebbleton, Lincoln, Leeston. They have invited myself or somebody from the board to attend their meetings and talk about the benefits, etc., of community boards. March has been a particularly busy month with A&P shows and other key local events. An enjoyable night was held when the board entered the team in the Kerwee Quiz Night, which raised around $3,000 for their Anzac Memorial. Looking ahead, the board has met to discuss the upcoming 24-25 budget, which will be formally considered at our March meeting. Our approach is to ensure value for money for all parties from a targeted rate of $26. Board members have also been involved in the local Water Done Well consultation, as well as environmental Canterbury public transport proposal for Darfield, Kerwee, West Melton to Rolleston. We have made submissions on both these. Additionally, we are receiving a local government New Zealand Electoral Reform Working Group draft position, which proposes significant changes to strengthen local election and voter participation. Consultation on this closes on the 28th of April 25, and the board will be making a submission. We were rather concerned when the Rolleston Residents Association put in a proposal to abolish the Melbourne Community Board, although in talking to one of your councillors, I think perhaps they were more concerned about part of their ward being transferred. However, we do wonder why they got involved of trying to disestablish the Melbourne Community Board when really rating has nothing to do with them. What we are rated for by the Melbourne community is only available to the Melbourne Community Board, and we're very conscious of that, and we're very conscious that what we propose to do is to gain not only the confidence of the Melbourne area, but also to gain confidence for other areas who may consider forming community boards. Mr. Mayor, again, I thank you and councillors for the privilege of coming here. I look forward to continuing it and bringing you up to date. I'm willing to answer any questions, but I would just prior to that say that the board currently is working together very harmoniously. It really is. And that has, and I'm not going to dwell on history, but the point is now we've only got basically six months to which we believe we've got a lot yet to accomplish. And with the help of our councillors, I'm quite sure, and the community of Melbourne, we will prove our worth.
Okay, thank you, Bruce, and appreciate the comments that you've shared with us today. We do have a couple of questions, firstly from Nicole.
Thanks, Bruce. Sorry, I just lost a bit of track following what you were saying at times, so excuse if you did mention this. So, you made mention of the submission that you guys made to public transport, and Sian did a very good job presenting that I'm on that hearings panel representing council. So, and do you know that ECAN have put forward for the annual plan that they're consulting on a Darfield to Rolleston service?
Sorry, I'm sorry, you know, as you all know, I'm pretty deaf. That's why I'm giving up politics. Sorry?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep. So, you know that ECAN is consulting on a Darfield to Rolleston
Yes.
service?
Yeah. Yep.
So you did mention
Yep.
and the board will put a submission in.
Yep. Yep.
Very good.
In our submission, as I understand, we have sort of talked about other ways we see it, of rather than just rating everybody. To be fair, I mean, the rate that they're setting for it, to me, is extremely high. But and the board thinks that as well. We think perhaps if it was given to a private contractor, these are suggestions that we've made to ECAN, and no doubt we'll hear the results of those at a later stage. It's just interesting. In Darfield currently during the day, there are 8 school buses that sit vacant. At my place, I've got 10 school buses sitting there, which are used for a minimum time of the day. And so it's just something whether, and some of my bus drivers, or the bus drivers that I used to work with, they are only too pleased to do other work. So it's just interesting, and I believe we have got other alternatives, which in my opinion would be considerably cheaper than what they're putting forward.
And so you know that you can...
Sorry?
And so you know that you could put those through in your submission, saying things like that. Just to reiterate, I thought Sian did did quite well presenting to us. And
Yeah, no,
so
no.
if you can pass that back to
It was something that she took on, and this is how it's developed now, the harmonious, that area that we've got amongst our board members. And I can assure you there's no infighting currently, and that's the way. Forget about the past, we're the future.
Thanks, Nicole. Lydia.
I just wanted to add something in, if that's okay.
Sorry,
Mr.
dear?
Chair. Can I add something in?
Yes, may you by all means.
Nicole, it's around the public transport. So I believe Sean is meeting with ECAN on Friday to talk through some options,
Correct.
and has invited me along to that to have a discussion with Environment Canterbury around what the options look like, and just some of the, I guess, some of the information that we were privy to last year, to be able to share that with her and, yeah, form their submission properly with some more information from them.
Yes, thanks, Lydia.
Well, thank you, Bruce, for coming down and sharing that with us. We look forward to having you back next time. Next presenter is Phil Dean, Economic Development Update. Is there anything, Phil, you'd like to share with us?
Just a couple of things. We had a pretty short turnaround between our last two meetings, so a lot of our the update I gave last time is still live, but I will give a bit of an update. We have had a presentation from Lincoln University and Orion about the joint energy plan. So just make a note here. And we also, at our meeting, we looked at the action plan for which focuses on the Kaikoureka priorities. Included in that, which I think was worth mention, was the establishment of the cross-sector steering group, the Selwyn Future Forum for Economic Leaders, as that's all part of the roadmap to how we get to these things. Beginning of plannings into supporting Māori economic development, and the long-term energy plan. We also, at that meeting, we adopted a prioritisation tool, CART. If you have a look at it online, it's quite an impressive tool. And we endorsed the investment and divestment decision trees. I'm continuing weekly meetings with the SLT to keep myself and committee engaged in the economic development growth. And I'd like to thank the members of the committee, Shane, Nicole, Grant, Sam and Megan, and also to the staff for their immense amount of work that they're doing at this at the moment as it's all growing. So thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Any questions you have of Phil? Lydia.
Can you tell me more about the cross-sector steering group, and where is Dark Sky progressing through your committee?
I don't have any information on that, but maybe it's something we can talk about. Got a next meeting up in 2 weeks' time. If you give me a question by email, I'll answer then. How does that sound?
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for that update, Phil. Next, Sophie, do you want to talk to us about Housing and Urban Development Committee?
Yeah, we haven't actually had a meeting since the last council meeting, so there's not much to update, but Michelle Flay and I did speak to the subcommittee regarding the RMA Consenting and Other Matters Amendment Bill. Nice long word. And that was pretty good. We got an interesting question from an MP asking if we thought that the bill would be good for developers wanting to speed up the rate of housing growth and the speed with which they can throw up houses. And we replied that we don't seem to have a problem with that in Selwyn. But yeah, it was an interesting experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Sophie? Next is Nicole, Climate Change and Sustainability Committee. Nicole, anything you want to put into the conversation today?
Had this meet. So just at our last meeting, we looked at climate change policy that needs review. We were also presented draft sustainability plan, draft emissions reduction plans, and those 3 things are away with staff at the moment. We've just in the process of organising a meeting time because at the moment our next meeting is in May, and my preference is to look at those before then, and then they can be signed off earlier than May. And we also have had the Selwyn Residents and business. Climate change survey results are all in that report, and it's quite good reading to see the responses that have come back in those.
Cool. Thank you, Nicole. From the Local Water Done Well Committee, councillors are aware that we've got the hearings tomorrow, and the focus of the meeting was on making sure good information was available to our community. Really want to thank Malcolm and Sophie for fronting a live session with the community as well. Thanks, Soph, for doing that. And yeah, you will have received and read the submissions that our community has given to us, and over the next 10 days is kind of the big decision-making time for us around the future of local water done well. We've included all of the committee feedback here, even if you haven't had a meeting, because there's often work that you might be doing, and if a meeting's only bi-monthly, we want to still provide the space for you to report back. If there is nothing to report back, that's fine, but it is available to you. Cover mover and second that we receive these verbal reports from the subcommittees.
Yep.
Thank you, Nicole. Seconded, Phil. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Sharon, we come to the Chief Executive's report.
Thank you, Sam. The Chief report today, the feedback from public forum from last month with Brian and Robert Pratchett. So staff are engaged with the Pratchetts, and an offer and invite has been made for themselves and community members around them to visit the site. And in terms of providing any information that they want with regards to test results. Mr. and Mrs. Pratchett also wrote to ECAN, and ECAN kindly sent us a copy of their response, which is attached and included in the body of the narrative that is down there. So we will keep engaging with the Pratchetts, and if there's anything else further that we need to bring back to you directly, we will. With regards to the annual report, so there is a risk and audit meeting next week for which the annual report is coming to, acknowledging that the annual report is later than we would like, and we have a extraordinary council meeting on the 26th to endorse the annual report. From a health and safety, again, whilst health and safety is presented to the risk and audit, it's really important to keep you as governors looped in to activity in the health and safety space. I think that we're making some really good progress in line with the external review recommendations that we have. So delighted that there's a new head of Department for Health and Safety started a couple of weeks ago, John Knight. John comes with extensive background in health and safety from based up in Auckland. And there's also some additional work going on around a training framework. We've also commenced the ELT and governance walk-around. So I think there's several of those that have been held. So thank you to councillors who's been on the walk-arounds with us. I think it's really valuable. The teams and the staff have really appreciated our approach and get a very strong sense that the conversation has been very open and very transparent and really beneficial. So we really appreciate your participation in that. I'll look to Steve to talk about anything else particular he wishes to highlight before I continue on.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Yeah, look, I think I just want to echo the message around the health and safety walkarounds. And if you look at point E in the report, which you might note there's about 5 of them, the actual test of work as imagined versus work as done is the most important reason for us getting out there around our facilities and talking to our staff. And that has certainly been our approach. It's not an auditing process, but it's a chance for us to engage with the staff and understand and hear about their experiences of working in our community, with our people, with our facilities and equipment. The observations that are made do go through our system, and there are a number of observations that we are now working on and currently progressing through to varying degrees of priority based on the feedback that we've had. So we do really appreciate that. In terms of the health and safety incidents, you'll see that there are a number of member of public issues noted there. These are all largely sporting misadventures, and so there's nothing really surprising about that, certainly given the number of people that use our facilities both indoors and out But I'm equally happy to answer any questions on that part.
I just want to add in addition, as Mayor Sam and I attended training on Friday, so our frontline animal control staff go through training on how to manage aggressive dogs and techniques. And again, as part of the governance management partnership, it is felt appropriate for the Mayor and I to go through similar training to understand what is required of our frontline staff. I'm really happy to share the video with you if you would like to see. I have to say, it really brought it home to us how intimidating it can be for our teams out there dealing with aggressive dogs. And to have a German Shepherd run at you from 40 metres and grabbing onto your arm, albeit with a very safe sleeve on, it is quite confronting. And so it's really important to demonstrate to our staff that we understand the position that we put them in. I'd like to thank very much to Sue Atherton and Matt for arranging this, and for, I think it's Raleigh Canine, sorry, who provided the training and have been providing the training to our staff.
Thank you, Sharon. Shane.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you for the report, and thanks for your leadership and leading in the space. The health and safety incidents, the appropriate place to find where the follow-up for that would be at the Audit and Risk Committee. Just if members of the public have an interest in the appropriate place to find that. The escalation in aggressive behaviour, that is an escalation. And have you got any more to report on that? Is that becoming more of an issue, and how are we dealing with it?
Thank you, Councillor. It's an ongoing trend, and it's something that we've seen across, I think it's seen across local government in general, and our team have been witnessing this. The Critical Risk Work Program, which deals with this, is looking at a range of mitigations, both in terms of how can we avoid it in the first place, and then how do we support our staff when it happens after the event. So our critical risk bow tie breaks that down in quite some detail, and that combined with the work around our psychological safety around, you know, the preventative training, it's de-escalation training, it's making sure our facilities and premises are right sized and safe and fit for purpose. So we are looking at quite a significant number of interventions pre and post to make sure that we can keep our staff and our members of the public safe at all times.
Thank you, Shane. Deborah.
I have a question with regards to, I guess it's the Ports of Auckland prosecution, and it comes back down to E, which has been mentioned, to carry out effective monitoring and review, and it's to use credible methodology to independently monitor health and safety performance. When you receive a report, ensure that it is fully actioned. I just wonder where I would find a policy that we currently have in our policy manual for us as governors to ensure that that review and the monitoring is able to take place at the highest level, which is the governance board level. Or do we actually need to include this as a policy yet to be brought to council?
Thank you, Councillor. That's a really good question that is quite complex in nature. But I think if I may start with the Health and Safety at Work Act, which sets out the obligations of officers under Section 44. That sets out your obligations, and that was part of the training that we provided both to our senior managers and also to councillors late last year. And so that act really, I think, is what has been the test here in the Ports of Auckland, and certainly what we've been working on across our management system since the review and ongoing, actually. So is there a need for a policy? I would say that the Act sets out your obligations fairly clearly. it's what we do to support you through training and education and communication, and then it's also ensuring that we provide you adequate reporting at more detail through the Audit and Risk Committee, and that you can then identify and request investigations or follow-ups, which we provide through our reporting on a quarterly basis to that Audit and Risk Committee. So I'm not entirely sure if there's anything missing for councillors around your obligations, but certainly if there is some clarity that you need around those roles, my team would be more than happy to spend more time working with you and your colleagues around this. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Megan.
Kia ora. Are we directing questions to Steve? Yeah, okay, great, thanks. So I just have a few questions. First, I think I am starting to feel more comfortable around health and safety, and that audit and risk are doing the heavy lifting, but then we're still to have a level of oversight. I had thought an outcome of the engagement that we've been doing so far was that we were looking at that Impact 2019 report, and we were going through the list of the recommendations and implementing them. And in that, it clearly does say that we do have the health and safety manual and the policy statement, but one of the recommendations is that it needed to be reviewed annually. And so I just wanted to know, how do we get a level of oversight on how that impact review is being implemented? That's question one. And then my second one is, then how often will we get reports? So I guess with that is, how often will we get reporting on that? And then my last one was a very specific question about understanding. So,
okay, thank you, Representative. Sorry. So the first question is, at a council meeting somewhere around October last year, we actually presented the HSC Global Report, which was done in 2024, and that was a more current review of our culture and our behaviours as a health and safety focused organisation. Through that decision, we agreed that that basically moved our impact report and the recommendations through into that report. So we are now reporting against the most recent review, which was last year, not the 2020 version. In terms of the progress of that, I guess one of the key recommendations out of the HSC Global Report was to actually establish a head of department for health, safety and wellbeing. And because that manager has now started, he's in his second week, we're now bringing all the recommendations forward that will be coming to both next week's Audit and Risk Committee and to future Audit and Risk Committee meetings. So there will be active reporting on those open actions.
right, so it's kind of like the traffic light report sitting in finance and risk. Sorry, audit and risk.
Audit, yes, correct.
Okay, right. And so then, and so will it then for us, will we get some type of understanding of whether or not like 5% of the actions have been complete or 90% or where the biggest risks still lie? Do we still get to understand that?
Yes, so we'll be working through each of those recommendations and we'll be providing a summary on the progress of each one of those. Some of them are quite one and done, like the employment or the restructuring the employment to get the right structure for our need. Others will be ongoing, such as education training, certainly quite a strong focus around officer obligations. The primary drive out of that report was around the need to improve our health and safety leadership in the organisation, because actually what was found at the front line was actually found to be relatively strong and very well supported.
Okay, that's really helpful. And my very specific question was around, in the report, understanding the statistics around lone worker, psychological safety, and then aggressive customers. I was trying to understand, like there's 6 reported incidents on psychological safety and 27 on aggressive customers and 2 on lone worker. And I wanted to know, how do you differentiate between what's the psychological safety and the other 2? Are they the same?
That's again a fantastic question. I think what I probably will need to do is dig into each of those and understand, because some of them could be both. Psychological safety is not just when you're interacting with people. There are other factors that are introduced, such as work design, workload, some of those factors, and so I probably need to have more look at the detail to come back to you with a fulsome answer.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, Megan, just in further to your question, and in part I think a little bit to Deborah's, I think in addition to the chairpersons of committees giving feedback, the chair of audit and risk will be added to that list, because I think it's really important that as councillors you get to hear and see a report, whether it's from the chair or the deputy chair, so that you have that confidence across this group that the review and recommendations are being completed in a manner that you like.
Grant.
Have you finished health and safety? My questions around the delegations. Next.
I'll get Sharon to speak to the delegations piece and then we'll come back to that. Sharon, do you want to do that now?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to pull Bob into this conversation as well. So the delegations component, what we're asking for is for council to endorse the delegations that are laid out. So this is in respect to the Fast Track Approvals Act 2024 late last year, and the process that is going to be required to deal with that. Bob, is there anything you want to add specifically?
As with all pieces of legislation, we need to have delegations at council officer level in order to allow council to interact with those pieces of legislation. There are quite time frames with each of those parts of the process, and they are quite mechanical of nature, and largely the council input will be of technical detail.
Thank you. Sharon, finish that, please.
Yeah, and I think that we've referenced that the delegations are similar along with other delegations that we currently carry out. So there's no significant variance. It's just that it's a new fast track process.
Cool. Thank you. Grant.
I'm seeking clarity on a couple of points. And the first one is the clause 99, authority to lodge appeal about a decision of a panel, which is delegated to the Executive Director of Development and Growth. So is just semantics, it's authority to lodge. The decision to make an appeal will be approved by council before that. So it's not actually...
yes, that's correct.
So it's not going to be the decision of the executive officer to make an appeal. We'll make a decision to make an appeal. They will lodge it.
That's correct, yes.
I want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, okay.
Another question following that one. Page 25, clause 2. This instrument of delegation may be amended, altered or revoked by council, and the new insertion is or chief executive at any time. That's not possible. This is a delegation by council to you as chief executive. You cannot amend or revoke it. It's our delegation. So we need to remove that, in my view. It's a delegation we're giving to the chief executive. Therefore, the chief executive can't revoke it.
No, I hear what you're saying, and that's probably not quite what we meant, but thank you, we'll amend that.
Yeah. That covers my questions. Thank you.
However, if there are some delegations that the chief executive can amend further down, though, to staff, but anyway, we'll find the wording for that.
What we're trying to do is if staff members change, but we've tried to take names away and just put designations of staff titles, so there shouldn't be any need to amend in that way.
We can tidy that up.
But as it stands, it's not correct.
Thanks, Grant. Lydia.
That was, point 2 on the conditions was my question that I had, and that I didn't think it was appropriate that, chief executive can amend, alter, or revoke this delegation. So I would like that removed, if that's okay.
Cool. Thank you. Any further questions on Sharon's report? Mover and seconder for the recommendations that are there, including the delegations. Moved Lydia, seconded Shane. Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. The next item is the notice of motion from Councillor Hassan. Deborah.
I'm going to actually take my notice of motion and the information on the report is read. But what I want to highlight with regards to this notice of motion is that I'd like to firstly thank my fellow councillors who have shown support for developing a priority plan and for staff who have listened to my concerns. And while this plan advocates for the need for future land purchases for the Pines wastewater treatment plant, it can be used as a template for other land purchases, for example, recreational reserves. My why, under the current Pines treatment plant Canterbury Regional Council resource consent, which was granted in 2010 and operational in 2012, due to council's growth and the success of our growth, under this current consent, we have used 30 years capacity in the land disposal in approximately 10 years. And until the treatment plant is upgraded to a drinking water standard, the council is going to be forever under this design, be chasing land, because it's dependent on the purchase of land to assist with this type of plant design. Why a priority plan? Priority plan allows for flexibility for council to develop a policy that allows staff to navigate the complexities of the Local Government Act and other legislative acts associated with the purchase of land at a very short turnaround or time notice. Local government has to jump through more hoops, unfortunately, when land is available for tender, with reporting back and statutes, than just a private individual. And it also will help with the collection of development contributions once we've got a priority plan in place. Whether the future of Selwyn's largest asset is in-house or via Water Services CCO, the adoption of a priority plan as council policy will enable council to monitor the performance of either entity on behalf of its ratepayers or shareholders to ensure the future-proofing of the Pines wastewater treatment plant. Please remember that sewage, including trade waste, treatment at the Pines wastewater treatment plant is not to a drinking water standard, that the current design must rely on effluent being disposed to land, and a healthy soil as a living organism is essential under its current resource consent conditions to protect the environment for all of us. So that's why I am putting my notice of motion forward, requesting a report from staff for a prioritising plan that gives flexibility to purchase suitable land for the extension of the Pines wastewater treatment plant at short notice, and this action be delegated to the Chief Executive, noting that it may have to come back to us if it doesn't meet the delegation under the Local Government Act or the Rating Powers Act, or even any other legislative acts, and that I'd like this report, staff report, to be available at the next meeting held the 16th of April 2025.
Thanks, Deborah. Seconder for the notice of motion, Nicole. Thank you. Sharon, do you want to just provide any comments on this?
Thanks, Deborah, and thanks for you taking the time to meet with the staff. I'm actually going to hand over to Tim Mason to talk to this. We have plans and papers for the 16th. And Tim, do you want to just provide some feedback?
Sure, yeah. We have quite a lot planned for the 16th, actually. Thank you, councillors. Confirming that staff have met with Councillor Hassan.
Can you move your microphone forward?
Tim, we're not picking you up, sorry.
We're having... Oh, there we go.
Sorry, just before you carry on, if we've had 3 or 4 problems with the microphones today, if you can please ensure that this top end needs pushing down properly, and the connection hasn't been good for some of the speakers, so that's been our problem. Tim, I'll get you to just start again, please.
Yeah, sure. So look, I'm just thanking Councillor Hassan. Staff have met with the councillor and the team are well underway in the development of that prioritisation plan. The intent is to bring the report to council on the 16th. There's quite a bit happening on the 16th. Related is also our intent to bring or to hold a workshop in regard to trade waste. So we have some trade waste options which we think are also relevant that we'll be conducting on the 16th. But yep, thank you. Well underway with the prioritised plan, and we'll have that report to Council on the 16th.
Thank you very
Any further conversation on this? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Next item is an update from the Chief Digital Officer around the LTP digital update. Thanks, Matt.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. So for those that don't know me, I'm the Chief Digital Officer, Selwyn District Council. Excuse me. And today I'm here to give an update on our spending against the LTP. So first of all, I'd like to thank this council, but also our community for endorsing the LTP funding for the next 10 years. And this slide just reminds folks that we have $1.3 million every year for the next 10 years. So this year, it's been a busy year. We've been focusing on getting the basics right for this organisation. So look, I'll run through very briefly sort of each initiative, and I'll take it that folks have read this, but I'll just provide a bit more context. So you can see here we've gone through a sort of a mix of benefits for council, but also benefits for the community as well. But the clear message here is we're spending a lot of time just getting the basics right. Okay, so as of a year ago, we had frustrations across the organisation just being efficient in and around the way that we meet and collaborate. We have installed new meeting rooms, very similar to the sort of setup that we have in council chambers today. We upgraded 15 meeting rooms, and that has provided a better experience for our staff and ultimately the community that are remoting in to talk to our staff. And it's actually produced a 3-year return on investment. So council staff were sort of taking about on average about 10 minutes per meeting trying to find cables and turn screens on. Now they walk in, one touch, instant seamless collaboration. So again, and look, I must also say all these initiatives are put together through collaboration between the digital team and the business units. So very proud of that fact. We've all worked well together as an organisation. Second, cab off the rank. And again, this is just getting the basics right, folks. We introduced our new body-worn cameras, and we talked about, folks out there having to have challenges with certain members of the public. This has delivered fantastic benefits for our staff and keeping them safe. And feedback from, staff out at the pointy end is that this is moderating behaviour of those folks out there. Also keeps us in check as well as council staff, but it's actually working. So really, really pleased with this initiative. And again, we're just getting the basics right. Other organisations are using this in the digital age. Okay, financial hygiene project. Now, this one is still in progress because it will take till the end of the year to complete. We, as of a year ago, we're having challenges, as you've probably heard before, with our financial system. And so what we've done is we've put in dashboards that reach inside the financial system to provide clarity for our business units. So now our business units can now better monitor spend, make sure they're on budget, etc., etc. The other driver of it, and one of our main priorities here, is to support our capital works team as well. And it's been a real challenge for them with our finance system to try and do that. So this is really helping out here. So we've delivered the financial dashboards, been running for about 6 months. The businesses are really enjoying having the clarity of their numbers. And we are running through our lovely finance system that we've had for a very long time. And we are consolidating all the information inside there. So we've got lots of cost codes and GLs. We're consolidating that down. We're implementing project accounting, which is one of the key things that Capital Works needs to be more efficient to deliver our infrastructure and program. And this will also improve our financial controls. The system at the moment constrains the way that we can control things in finance. So dashboard's done, and we're just working through the rest of this consolidation and financial controls. Now, something for the public, and again, this is in progress. We have now full online booking systems for our pools and our sports centre. This is a major change for us, and it is one of the first cabs off the rank of going digital. This is, again, it's almost, you could almost say this is just getting the basics right as well from outside, out in our community. I mean, if you look at the standard deviation curve, I believe, if you look at the top of the curve, the average age is 37. Folks in that sort of area request and want stuff online. So that's what we've done here. Another one really proud of, and I hope everybody saw on One Network News about a month ago, where the district was up in lights, so very proud of this one. So this was implementing the first one in New Zealand, a drowning prevention system. So this is new innovation. It signals that we're a district, that we are going digital. We all know, we're expanding rapidly. This solution will enable us to expand, right, but also keep our costs down for the future. And this is just another augmentation of the lifeguards and the people we have, and it really supports them to be able to do their job better. New ways of working. So this is an initiative that is driving efficiency within council and staff. So we have a frustration with our systems being able to find data in a timely manner. It affects our Lagoima timeframes. It provides challenges around our Public Records Act compliance. So this initiative, the Modern Workplace, is teaching the new ways of working to our staff. Okay, so this is leveraging the latest collaboration tools, leveraging those meeting rooms that I've talked about, but there are other tools as well. So it'll be reducing meeting times. It'll be cross-business unit collaboration will be a lot faster. And so this, again, it is, getting the basics right, but it is a new way of working for council, okay? Efficiency, benefits, it's going to support Lagoima compliance. It'll reduce risk for privacy issues. I don't know if you're aware, but every time we do something in digital, we have to be very careful around the privacy side of things and the data, that we are the custodians of the community's data. Okay, so getting near the end, the Capital Works. So this is an interim solution we provide to the Capital Works team. So they were having challenges. Again, this bubbled up around LTP. And to speed things up and to make them manage their portfolio better, we implemented a temporary tool before we moved to a very large tool. So as you can see here, this provides good representation and forecasting of our Capital Works area. We're also throwing some more effort in there around another application that's going to help the public out in this case, and our subcontractors, and to reduce our cost. Through a tool called Forward Works Planner, and that'll enable contractors and the public to be able to look at where all the roadworks are going to be, what's happening around the district. It'll also show what's happening with Cord and other partners. And so, look, basically, we don't want to dig up the road 3 times. That's the theory here, and to reduce cost around that, and to collaborate better, and to provide transparency for our community. Okay, so again, I'd like to thank the business units and the digital team for a wonderful job this year. You can see that's quite a lot of initiatives to get done. We've still got 3 months to go, financial year, so we're not quite at the end of the year. I just want to end on the fact, and a bit of an update for next year, which is FY26. Our systems are not fit for purpose. We've known that. But what we didn't know was it's more of a challenge than we anticipated. Okay, so next year it'll be another year of getting more of the basics right, driving value for our communities and gaining efficiencies across the organisation. And look, we're also going to start looking at more interim solutions, fitting within our budget constraints as well. So, thank you very much. If anybody's got any questions.
Thanks, Matt. Sharon?
Yeah, I just want to add that, Matt, thank you for the presentation and thank you for the teams for the great work that's going on. The drowning prevention system, that, given we've talked about health and safety today, it's a great example of when we had a health and safety issue and an event that occurred last year. A bow tie was taken through to risk and audit. Risk and audit made a recommendation to council that there needed to be greater investment in terms of drowning prevention for systems, not that an individual drowned, but there was a medical incident, and council supported that expenditure going into the LTP. And so I'm just joining the dots for you of, we had the incident, we had good process around health and safety, council endorsed it, thank you very much. We now have cutting edge drowning prevention system in place. So I think that's a really nice story there, from the event through to council giving some support to bring something to effect.
Thanks, Sharon. Shane?
Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you for the clarity, Sharon. And thanks, Matt, again. I think considering the massive challenge that I'm sure you've been presented with, you've done an incredible job to achieve so much on a sliver of a budget. And I'm very appreciative because as an information society, the way that we process information and the way that you are currently working and collaborating with the teams not only allows us to be more effective and efficient, but then easier to perform and manage the performance of. So I see the benefit on that small budget over the next however many years as a huge kudos to you, yourself and the team. But I guess my question is, I guess it's never going to be enough, but it needs to keep pace. You've mentioned that we're currently probably getting to the start line of where we should be in order for us to maintain effective, optimal performance for our district. Do you see an increase needed to keep up with the pace of change and the need for information?
Thank you, Shane, and thanks for the kudos on that. Look, just for next year, we've got such a big task to get the basics right. Look, I couldn't even talk to what extra we're going to need. So we're focusing on getting the basics right still, and getting to that point where we can operate efficiently as an organisation.
Thanks.
And then we're going to have to look at, well, what's it going to do to support the scalability.
And just secondly on the safety, the app, and well done with that. I wonder, do you think there's any opportunity to expand that for safety or Guardian? There is Guardian devices out there in the transport industry that protect staff and those working contractors as a quick alert system. Do you think there's opportunity to expand on that so that everyone is protected or feel protected at the push of a button?
You mean like a lone worker system, like a man down? Yeah, there's plenty of lone worker systems out there that can automatically detect when someone either doesn't move or doesn't turn up at a certain location.
Or doesn't feel safe?
Yeah, it doesn't feel safe, panic button.
Yep, thank you. Thanks.
I was just going to add in with regards to the funding question, is that councillors through the LTP have given us a good starting point, as Matt said, to get the basics done. I think there will be a stage, and probably around the next long-term plan, where we will need to have further conversations, particularly around enterprise systems, around the size and scale of cost of that. But I think we're positioning ourselves to actually be much more responsive to our community, and to make ourselves more effective and efficient, which is a good starting point for the next 3 years.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thanks for the report. I have 3 questions, and I'm actually reading it from the Modern Workplace. And I'll start with Prepare for AI. Many other organisations, they have policies around the use of AI in the workplace. Do we have any policies around the use of AI in the workplace? Is there a need for developing a policy in that area?
We most certainly do. So we have an AI policy that's been in place, I think, about 6 months. That is about to be reviewed after the modern workplace, because we had to put something in place just to give us the guide rails till we get to teaching our staff how to use it. We're now going to start testing AI, and we'll have to upgrade and change our AI policy. AI policies are going to keep moving. They're going to keep changing and morphing as organisations change. So yes, we have one, and I'll be coming back to this council to update it within the next sort of 6 months to 12 months.
Okay, thank you. I guess the next one is cloud-based storage, secure of information. How many, and I guess this follows on to the next question, is how many service providers are we utilising with regards to cloud storage? I mean, we've got Apple, we've got Microsoft, we've got other new players entering into this realm. And I just wonder, how are we dealing with these new players that are coming up with new ideas all the time? Do we need to pay to join these particular organisations? Is there one better than the other? How do we assess, the benefit for us as a council with all of these programs on offer?
We've been in the cloud for quite a long time. So we're with Microsoft, and we get all of government. So we're protected around the cost, but also around the security side of things. At this point in time, that is our only provider.
Okay, so we're not dealing with other providers. Are we also? Leads on to my third question, with regards to how we worked in the past, where we actually had a lot of contracts, shall we say, in supplying services to our digital realm, shall we say. Are we still actually employing those consultants, those various consultants, or have we actually refined it to one consultant?
So we're always going to need advice. So I don't quite understand the question.
Sorry, we had, under the old system, we had various people who formulated, say, a digital platform or a digital service, and we had to buy it from them. I use a simple one called Selwyn Gets Ready. With regards to the designer of Selwyn Gets Ready, we have to pay to actually use that. We had to pay, and I just wonder, is that still the case with regards to some of the apps that are being developed that we're using, or how does that work? Sorry.
Actually, Matt, what I was going to suggest is perhaps you explain how you've broken your team down into the two different components, just very briefly and very succinctly, because that will then help answer about the two different ways that the organisation is now working, which lends itself a little bit to Deborah's question.
Yeah. So a year ago, we had a digital team that did everything. Okay. And so we've made it more efficient by splitting it in two. One to effectively maintain service, keep the lights on, and the other side, which is like the innovation side, which you've seen most of this does here. You can't have one without the other. So you must have, one team that can support and one team that can build, because it always has to hand over to that other team. So in the past, yes, we probably went out to lots of different vendors and bought all sorts of apps and things like that. That is being slowly consolidated down as we go over. It's part of getting the basics right, and we have a plan of consolidation to reduce that number of providers down.
Okay,
So particularly in that one, that's a web, I think it was some sort of website you said that was.
Selwyn Gets Ready, yes, it was.
Yeah, so we're putting together a plan now to consolidate that down and reduce that number of, we'll call them app providers. But I think to where Sharon was going for, if you're talking about consultants, then we will always bring consultants into the innovation side of digital to help, and then they'll go out again when the help's done, and then we hand it over. So that will never go away. We will always need advice in this digital age.
Okay, thank you for explaining.
Okay.
Thank you, Deborah. Elizabeth.
I'll be efficient and quick. I've just had a look at the booking systems for the halls because that's been a big buzz of mine for ages. I can see that it's definitely much improved from what it was. I guess my generation wants to get on there and see the calendar and see the availability. We don't have that yet on here. Is that something that's going to come into play, or is there a reason we're still using the old system where you still have to write your details in, say who you are, which hall you want, what room you want, send an email through and wait for staff to reply? Because that's what's happened in the past, and it's caused angst with our community, particularly with things like funerals, where they've required a really quick response. And how do we currently guarantee that we're getting a quick response by still using that old method?
And a very quick response, that's coming. We've just done the pools in the sports centre, and phase 2 is our spaces and places. Yeah. So yes, that will improve.
Thank you. Sophie.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you very much. This is pretty exciting, to be honest, and look forward to seeing how it continually develops because, yeah, it's been a while coming and things move more quickly than we can keep up with most of the time. So my question is pretty much about us lot here because I can see that staff are being invited to modern workplace inductions and stuff like that. Do we need to sign up to this as well? Because admittedly, we work mostly from home. We mostly just use Diligent and Outlook, and that's about it. But at the same time, do we need to know what's going on so we can make sure we're being secure and doing things right as well? Because, yeah, we seem a bit removed from it at the moment.
So as a technologist, the answer would be yes, but I'd have to ask Mayor Sam if that would be appropriate, that's all.
Yeah. I'm always open to more training and thinking about how we can do things better and maximise the technology that's available to us. So, yeah, we'll take you up on that, Matt.
Okay, well, the induction sessions and training is on now, so I'll have a chat to the project manager and get you invited.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for coming along and talking us through that. We've got a recommendation that we receive the report. Moved Shane, seconded Phil. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you, Matt. Next up we have tab 12. It's the elections 2025, ordering of candidate names. This is to put the candidate names in random order rather than in alphabetical or any other order. Moved by Shane, seconded by Bob. Any conversation? Those with names in the first half of the alphabet, I can see, Elizabeth, why you'd like alphabetical. No. It's just how I'm doing. Any further discussion? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? One, declare it carried. Next we have the disestablishing and discharging of a committee of council, which is the Westview Special Fund, which has been chaired by Bob, Councillor Mugford. Thank you for that work. So the recommendation is that we disestablish the Westview Special Fund with effect from today's council meeting.
So moved.
Moved Grant, seconded Bob. Thank you, Bob. Do you want to talk to it?
Yeah, I think it's something that's worked in the community, and the community of a few years ago took the initiative to buy this land off rail, and now the community's having the benefit of what we've got from it, and it's affected like 50 different organisations in the community, so we've spread it a long way, but I'd really like to thank the staff and especially Therese for all the work that she's put into it, because it's been phenomenal the amount of work that's been done to keep us going with keeping on with contractors and everything else to make sure the money's spent. So I'd like to thank all the staff. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bob, for those words. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. The next item is the Central Plains Water Joint Settlers Committee and Trust Terms of Reference and Sustainability Report.
I've got Councillor Lydia to speak to this.
Thanks. So this is part of subcommittees, and so we have to bring this in under Sharon to the table. But I guess at the start of the Terranium, I was elected or appointed to the CPW Joint Settler Committee, and I was then elected as chairperson, and I'm doing a wee bit of research. I found out that there's actually no terms of reference developed for this committee, and so I took that as something that we actually needed, especially when we're working in conjunction with our neighbouring council, Christchurch City, just to give us some basic guidelines. It doesn't need to be too complicated. It actually just lays out, and especially going into the next triennium, you don't know who or what will happen with that. So I think just for the next people coming into that, it'll allow some guidance for them. It is how the committee has been operating for the past few years, and there's been other councillors that have been appointed to that prior to myself. And the other one is we just included the annual sustainability report for councillor information that the Joint Settler Committee was briefed on, and that was presented by the Trust. And the Joint Settler Committee notes that this year's annual sustainability report is a huge improvement on the past ones, and I think that's down to some of the capability that we've put into the Trust. So it's great to see, and they will just start building on what they have now in years to come.
Great, thanks Lydia. Seconder for the recommendations that are here. Nicole, thank you. Any discussion? Shane?
Yeah, I just had one. Sorry, I was just looking for it. Mana whenua. Whether there has been or I see it's a work in progress. Has it always been open for mana whenua to be part of that joint settlers? Okay.
Yeah,
That was my question.
absolutely. I have written to mana whenua a few times, and I'm due to. I have draft letters to send to Ngāi Hariri and Te Tamutu, just informing them that their positions at the Trust are still there and the door is open if they wish to appoint anybody. And if any comments need to be made on annual sustainability reports or just sharing information. We also, at the last meeting, we had discussed trustee appointment, and Mr. Wanhala had resigned from the Trust, who was our mana whenua voice unofficially. And the joint settlers had discussion around that. We don't actually wish to reappoint any new trustees to the Trust. The level of 5 to 7 is the preferred number of trustees. We would rather leave that space open for our mana whenua partners if they so wish to take. And I just note that we have received the statement of intent as well and given comment back to the Trust. So they will just review our comments and come back to Council.
Okay, thanks, Lydia. Any further questions? Megan?
I just had one. I just wanted to really understand, or make sure I understand it right. So you've got the Joint Settlers Committee, then you've got the Trust, and then is the company in the hierarchy of reporting to the Trust, or is it a hierarchy like that, 1, 2, 3, or is it not quite that model?
I think not quite. So the Joint Settlers is Christchurch and Selwyn combined. We oversee the Trust, and the Trust holds the consents for the limited operation. Yeah, for the business.
And so the company's separate because, right.
The company
No,
is
that's
separate,
helpful.
and they have then their board of directors for the company. So it is a little bit complex.
And so then this fund, so then the funds, the trustees decide how the funds are spent, or the company decides how the funds are spent?
Are you talking about the Environmental Management Fund with the biodiversity projects and whatnot?
Yeah, this particular report, the sustainability.
So the sustainability report
Sorry, the funds.
Indicates some of the EMF, so the Environmental Management Fund, and that is a fund available for people to undertake projects. There is a trustee appointment on that. There is a Selwyn District Council, so the committee, that is a separate committee.
And is
that decides on how those funds are spent.
And is that a committee under the Trust or under the company?
It is joint.
Oh, okay.
just to make it a bit more complex for you. So in that EMF, there is a community member, there is a biodiversity specialist, there is a trustee, and then I believe there is someone from the company.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Deborah.
Right. Thanks for this report. I've got to ask the question. Just interested in the graph on page 61 of the sustainability report, and I guess it's looking at the nitrogen risk map. I can't see whether it is actually the nitrate in the pink areas is actually increasing or decreasing compared to other years with regards to the particular map. All I'm reading basically is that there are nitrate concentrations exceeding trigger that need further investigation. But the statistical evaluation is limited due to the insufficient data. And I'm just trying to think, have we got some baseline data that we can actually look at from previous nitrogen risk maps to understand whether it is actually increasing or decreasing, especially in those pink areas. And if I'm looking at the pink areas in that map, a lot of them are along the Selwyn River, and or flowing through the Selwyn River area. And I just wonder how is that going to be managed with regards to future establishing baseline data and then reporting on the increase or the decrease.
So you'll note that I'm not the author of this report,
No.
and there is technical things. What we can do is I can ask the trust to come and present this if you wish, and they do this in a much more technical way than I can with industry experts. But what the map that you're actually looking at is a mitigator risk map, and so it's just it operates a little bit differently around what areas on your farm are more risk adverse than others. And goes into farm management practices. It's not necessarily about nitrogen losses or what baseline data is, but that map, and this is my take on it, is showing where you would not put effluent, where you would use farm management practices to avoid nitrogen loss.
Okay. No, it just I've asked that question. It's just if you could take it back about trying to establish some baseline data so you can actually see the movement.
So CPW hold a vast amount of baseline data on.
Okay. On through the farm environmental management plans.
Yep.
Thanks, Deborah. Thanks, Lily, for presenting that. We have the recommendations in front of us, 1 and 2. Does anyone mover and seconder for this? Lily, happy to move? Seconded. Nicole, thank you. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. That brings us through to the resolution to exclude the public. Mover and seconder. Deborah, thank you. Bob, all those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. And we'll adjourn the meeting and start again at 3 o'clock. Thank you.